In this video, let's create an unusual 7 layers honey custard cake which is named Birdie. I'm Violet, let's cook with me. Let's begin with the cream. Pour 150 grams of sugar, 1 packet of vanilla sugar, a pinch of salt, and 50 grams of cornstarch into a thick bottom bowl. This will be the custard base for our cream. Next, I'll take 700 milliliters of milk, gradually pour it into the rest of the ingredients and stir at the same time so that the starch doesn't form lumps and the mess will be so smooth. Finally, take 2 eggs, add them one at a time and stir with the rest of the mixture until smooth. That's it, now all that's left is to cook our custard base. To do this, I put the mess on a medium heat and stir constantly so that it doesn't burn to the bottom of the bowl. When you see that the mixture is thickening, start whisking as intensively as possible to prevent lumps from forming. Once the cream has become completely thick and smooth, remove it from the heat. Pour the base into another bowl, cover with food wrap in contact, and leave it chill completely. While the custard base is cooling, let's cook the dough in the same pot. Pour in 150 grams of sugar. You can never have too much vanilla sugar, so I add 1 pocket and a pinch of salt after it. Next, I take 140 grams of honey. Then add 3 eggs and 100 grams of unsalted butter. You can stir it a little with the whisk or you can leave it as it is because it all needs to be melted anyway. Put the mess on the medium heat, stirring occasionally until the butter and sugar will completely dissolve. Bring it to a boil. When you will see the bubbles on the surface, it's time to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda and then start stirring extremely intensively and quickly with a whisk. The mess will increase in volume and turn white. That's cool. Keep it on the heat for 1 to 2 minutes and then remove. Now all we need is to add the flour and knead a wonderful honey dough. I take 550 grams of flour in total. Add it gradually in small portions and after each additional mix well with a whisk. I do this to avoid lumps. When the dough becomes difficult to stir with a whisk, I put it on a table and continue kneading. It should become in a ball. All the crumbs should well mixed into a single mass. It's a simple dough kneading as usual. The dough should turn out soft and pliable, but at the same time quite elastic. Now when the dough is ready, divide it into 6 equal parts. I shape them into balls to make them easier to roll out later. Roll out the dough on a parchment paper into a kind of square shape as this cake is usually square. The dough should be rolled out very thinly. Thin layers will soak up the cream very good in the final cake. To cut out the layers, I use the top of 26 cm square metal baking pan. You can use a cutting board for this or simply cut it to the diameter of the baking sheet. I gather the pieces of dough that are left over into another bowl and form a 7th layer. Before baking, pierce the layer with a fork all over the surface so that it doesn't inflate and form voids during baking. Let's repeat the material we've already learned. I place the ball of dough on a parchment paper, roll it into a square and cut out a desired shape. Be sure to pierce the dough with a fork before baking. I recommend forming all the layers before baking them because they will cook before you know it. Bake at 180 degrees for 4 or 5 minutes, no more than that so they don't start to burn. They should be a nice medium brown color. I ended up with 7 layers in total. Let's finally finish our cream. Whip 200 grams of room temperature butter with a hand mixer at a high speed. Do it for about 7-10 minutes until the butter increases nicely in volume. At this stage, we remind about our custard base. It has cooled down well, and now all we need to do is whip it together with the butter. I do everything gradually so that there are no large pieces or lumps. Add a few spoons of custard paste to the butter and whip well. Put a few more spoons and whip it again, and continue until the whole mass turns into smooth cream. But that's not all. There is one more ingredient in our cream: 4 tablespoons of condensed milk. Pour it into the almost finished cream and whip it for another 5 minutes. This is how moderately thick and fluffy my cream turned out, and now I can start assembling the cake. Now everything is so easy. Spread the cream between all 7 layers. If it will be easier for you, you can divide cream evenly on 6 plates so you can be sure that you have enough for all the layers. I'm not going to soak the layers with anything because they are super thin and there is no point. I won't spread cream on top because we'll be making a chocolate glaze for this purpose. So let's make a universal glaze. You can use it as a cover for any kinds of the cakes. Add 170 grams of sugar and 60 grams of cocoa powder into a saucepan. Next, take 160 grams of milk and gradually pour it into the rest of the ingredients, stirring everything together very well. After that, the glaze needs to be cooked. Put a saucepan on a medium heat and stir constantly with a whisk. First of all, the sugar should melt and then the mass should be brought to a boil. When the mass begins to boil, I add 100 grams of water and cook the glaze until completely smooth, stirring every time, of course. There should be no lumps of butter or cocoa powder. It should be glossy and shiny. Pour and spread the glaze over the cake as soon as you remove it from the heat. While it is hot, it is very pliable and easy to work with. This is very important because cold glaze will simply harden and you will not be able to do anything with it. This is my favorite 7-layer honey custard cake. If you follow the recipe, everything turns out perfectly. I've made it many times and I have never had a situation where it didn't turn out well. Why do I call it birdie? I don't know. That's just how it is. That's all for today. More recipes every Friday. See you next time. Big hug, yours Violet.